Welcome to Cowork Chilliwack and Startup Grind Chilliwack. Thank you for sacrificing a beautiful summer evening to come out, but I think you'll be well rewarded with a great conversation. Our guest this month is Wim Kerkhoff, the CEO of Kerkhoff Technologies and Crafty Penguins. Let's give a warm Startup Grind Chilliwack welcome to Wim Kerkhoff. Come on up, Wim. Very good. All right, have a seat. You are our July guest. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I know you weren't feeling great last week, and I'm happy to understand that you're feeling good this week. And thanks to all of you for adjusting your schedules and being able to come out. Well, you know what? I forgot our preamble, but I'm going to do it quickly. Startup Grind Chilliwack is part of a global network of Startup Grind chapters. There's actually more than 600 of them, started in Silicon Valley, and we are amongst this massive global movement. There's three things we do: make friends, give first, and help others. So you are part of this collective, and it's all about just connecting and making friends and helping others. We've got some fantastic sponsors that have been with us for the entire year: the Chilliwack Economic Partners, Accelerator, and UFV. And then we've got partners giving up sweat equity and putting all this together on a monthly basis: Cowork Chilliwack, Currency Marketing, Wisebox, and Around Chilliwack. Let's hear it for our sponsors and partners. And if you are tweeting or Facebooking or Instagramming, use the hashtag StartupGrind, and that flows up into the global movement. And Wim, now I should be introducing you.
All right, thank you.
So we had a pre-interview, and it's been interesting. I find that I know these folks, and then you have a meeting with them, and you start doing a LinkedIn search, and you see all the details. And we're going to start from the very beginning. Early life in Chilliwack. One thing I wanted to get right off the bat is we compared notes, and I have 6 first cousins. And how many do you have?
No idea.
You thought probably 300-ish?
It's somewhere up there, yeah. Plus all the second cousins, and they're, yeah.
Yeah. So
I got cousins with the great-grandchildren, so there's lots.
Wow. So your parents emigrated from Holland to Canada, and you have a large family. How many brothers and sisters?
I got 8 brothers and sisters, yeah.
And where are you in the pecking order?
Right in the middle.
Awesome.
Yeah. Awkward spot.
Yeah. And when you hear the name Kerkhoff, if you're from Chilliwack or the Upper Fraser Valley, it's a very entrepreneurial brand family name, but primarily they're involved in building and all of that, but you didn't go that direction.
No, yeah, if I introduce myself, I'm Kerkhoff Technologies, and oh yeah, you guys built this bridge and all that, and then I got to kind of steer them away from that side, but yeah, I'm from my family, I'm the only one not in construction. So yeah, a lot of my cousins, uncles, are still in construction, real estate, development, that sort of thing. So
You sent me this picture of a 286. This is the deluxe model. It has both a 5.5 and a 3.25 drive in it.
So I just got to thinking back. I asked for pictures. I'm like, what can I find from like the early days? And I couldn't find much. I'd have to go ask my mom, and I ran out of time, right? But I'm like, yeah, we started with a 286 and played games and got into the 386, 46 and started tinking around. So kind of brought back some memories just looking at the picture.
So was that in high school or junior high that you kind of got the bug for computers?
Well, our first computer, I would have been probably like just 7, 8 years old.
Okay.
But I really got more to tinkering around with like breaking it, fixing it, that sort of thing when I was probably like 11 or 12.
What were some early memories that of tinkering? Were you making anything?
Stuff with DOS, and like in those days you had something called QBasic and Nibbles and Gorilla, so breaking those programs and adding a third player to them and that sort of thing. So
cool.
Getting the early home network going, right? That was the thing then, right?
And your first kind of technology job, I understand, was with Netmaster Networking Solutions, which became Merilus. Tell me about that experience.
So I got hired. I was right out of grade 12. It was like my summer work experience. It was paid, and it was a startup. So actually, it was working from was running from my boss's basement, and they didn't have room for me, so I dialed in from home and writing code for them right out of grade 12. And
wow. And what were they building at that point?
They were doing 2 things. They were building their Linux-based firewall, So a whole appliance with a web server, firewall, security, VPN, all of that.
Okay.
I think they were working on that, but I was doing more custom projects for their clients, more consulting, application development.
Yeah, and you had sent me this picture, which was some early programming books that I imagine you were involved
That's what
with.
they gave me. They gave me that book on the top, or I think it was the Mod Pro book, and they're like, yeah, go learn it. We think this is the cool next thing.
Okay.
It's better than the CGI module, so went and learned that and put that into.
So when you said they're a startup, define what that means. Were there investors involved? Was it bootstrapped?
Bootstrap, no external money. There's co-founders. Actually, one of the co-founders was had a full-time job somewhere else, and so he could fund the whole thing. And
Wow.
they had a guy selling it, and then the co-founder and another guy, Alan, were writing code.
So what was the business model? How did they pay the bills other than...
They were selling the appliance.
Okay.
So I guess selling enough of it to
And is
bring
that
in cash.
it there, this fire card? Is that...
That was later.
Got it.
First we were building something that was a full server, really. And then they're like, okay, let's make it smaller. So they had it running from floppy disk images. So you use this Java program. It would write out these floppy disk images running a whole Linux embedded operating system. That was a firewall, so basically 1 or 2 floppies and boot from that. They realized that's kind of old stuff, and they went into building this PCI card, which was just slot into any computer. And the idea was, instead of having software installed on your computer or a separate firewall, is you put on a card inside the computer.
Okay.
So it's kind of taking something that's normally outside your server and putting it within the server to save on power and real estate. So.
And this was in the lead up to the 2000, the dot.
Yeah. So I was like employee 4 or 5, and they got up to like 60 people.
Wow.
I just learned that like 2 months ago. I talked to my ex-boss, and he's like, yeah, we're up to 60. I'm like, oh, I thought it was 30. But I didn't see them because there was like sales reps in the States working with distribution and all that, and then never saw them. I was just in the back office, really.
So is this, when you think of startup grind, or the startup life around 2000, where like you were sliding pizzas under the door to
we were
programmers
doing, for
in the
a while,
dark?
I remember that last stretch, we were doing like 80-hour weeks on the clock, really. But it was like, we'd take an hour and a half for lunch and some Quake. And then at night, we'd get some pizza in and have some drinks and more Quake or foosball. And then we'd work for a couple hours and go home. So I don't think it was definitely not productive.
Right.
12 hours a day, but...
Do you have fond memories of that, or was it?
I learned a lot because I was going to school part-time, but I really pushed my degree back. I'm like, I don't feel like doing this. I'm learning so much at work. So I was single, just worked there, enjoyed it, great people. We had fun there. I don't regret that. It was a good experience for about 3 years while that lasted. And then they ran out of money.
And I think this was one of the projects you worked on. You went to the Wayback Machine. It's missing a few graphics, but this was City...
It's called City Choices, so the concept of that. So we were hired to build the content management system. Like today, you use WordPress, but that didn't exist then. Nothing like that existed.
Okay.
So I wrote the whole code, the backend, the editor, there's JavaScript, HTML, all the different things, and then make it so that designers could upload pictures and content. So the concept is they could hand out a DVD to people going on cruise ships. Say, hey, here's the CD. You're landing in Miami. You're landing in Vancouver. Here's a CD about Vancouver. And then you can also click through to the website and see live content there.
Got it.
And they were going to launch to like 10 different cities. So I think they got as far as 3, and then they fizzled out as well. But I basically did all the coding on that.
And so you're given a project to figure out how to write CDs and so forth.
A graphics media company did that, and they hired us to do the server web programming.
Got it.
So.
And there's no roadmap or manual for that. Like, how do you figure it out?
There was... Just go do it, go write code, and go build it. There was like, I had no project management, no leadership, nothing on it. They kind of let me go on it. And
at this point, you're what, 20, 21 years old?
Oh, 18.
18, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
18, 19, yeah.
Wow. What's your key takeaway from that era? Like, as you think
that was
forward
like
to
Wild
you...
West, really.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was not managemented. Nobody checked in with me, really, and I have no idea how they made money on that.
And I imagine that influenced your being a business owner at this point, right? Like just
you got to control it. It was growing out of control, really. Like when you got 5 people starting the same week, and they have no idea what to do. That's like that's disaster.
No kidding.
Yeah, so lots of mismanagement going on. I didn't see it all, but you're not unaware either, even as a junior person.
And so that kind of fizzled out, and at that point you moved to something called Morpheus Software Solutions.
It didn't even fizzle out. They just laid everybody off one day.
Okay, boom,
Just
done.
Gone, yeah. Because they're like, yeah, bailiff's coming, right?
Okay,
So,
wow. Did you grab like a chunk of the desk as a memento or anything, or?
no.
No?
Just like my personal stuff. And
Wow. And so 2002 to 2004, you were a system architect with Morpheus Software Solutions. What did they do, other than red pill, blue pill, matrix references?
Oh, I don't know where he got that name from, but worked for a fellow and really was working at one of his clients, and that was a manufacturer in Richmond, and they built prefab houses that they shipped overseas. They're now out of business now as well. But they were doing...
There's a theme emerging here, you know.
Yes. Yes, to be continued, yes.
Okay.
And so they had another company who built a barcoding system, and it was horrible. It was slow, didn't do what was required.
Right.
So Nico
I
hired
think
me.
this is actually a screen
So
from your
it's
software.
actually not of the software. I couldn't find that.
Okay.
But it integrated with this system. So this is a program called Bon, just made by a Dutch company. So this interface was probably designed like mid-90s. And so by the time I got to it, was kind of considered like a legacy product. There was newer versions, but ERP got so entrenched in companies that you couldn't upgrade easily from, let's say, version 4 to version 5. It cost millions of dollars. So they kept maintaining the old system. And to add functionality was so hard that we would build things outside. So we pulled the data out into like Microsoft Access and SQL Server,
Right.
and did it from there. So I basically rewrote all this like Visual Basic code to actually work.
And what was this system? What were you trying to do?
The goal was, so it's shop floor, to packaging up 10 houses per day into containers, which get shipped to Japan. And they had a problem is their shipping accuracy was really low. And if you missed, let's say, not just a hammer or a roll of duct tape, but a whole window or a wall panel, it's very expensive to airship that over.
Right.
Because people are in Japan assembling this house and they're missing parts.
So this is beyond a Billy bookcase. This is a
Yeah.
few more parts than
Few more
that,
parts,
right?
yeah.
But the same premise that it all has to be there.
It's got to be there. So basically, it was using barcoding to make sure they're getting near 100% accuracy. So as they're picking it, creating it, and loading it into container, then scanning it, and all that. So it had to be fast. Like if you're scanning barcodes, it can't take 30 seconds when you've got hundreds of items to scan. It's got to be beep, 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 all the way down.
And there's another thing that going into that, did you have any barcode experience?
Zero, no.
So what's your first step? Buy a barcode scanner and see how this thing
They
works?
had that, so it was kind of optimizing what they had
Got it.
and learning on the fly. So it was a real shift. I came from like a Linux web programming background, now going to Visual Basic. Actually, it was, in a way, it was a step back in time
Right.
to access and
Yeah, because you had
access.
got involved in Linux very early days.
very early, yeah.
And even today, that's probably your preference. What's on your daily driver
It's
and
Windows.
computer?
It's Windows,
okay.
yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm not really hands-on with Linux, even though that's half of what we do. But I used to run like Linux on my desktop and be very hardcore on it.
Cool.
But times change.
So in both of these situations, although it was perhaps part of a bigger organization, you were pretty much on your own. Like when you did this, this was for manufactured housing. Where were you working? Was it on
I was
site?
on site at that company, yeah.
Right.
So I really have to go around and talk to these people on the shop floor, understand what they're doing, what they're scanning, what the actual issues were. So I couldn't have done that remotely. I had to be there and
Got it.
get their feedback. And
So you were translating from a non-technical standpoint. How can you apply these rules to what you're doing in the technical sphere?
yeah, how to optimize it. Just things like printing labels,
Right.
right? And have that go quickly and not take an hour. 'Cause that's what it was with the guy who worked on it previously.
Got it.
So yeah, just dealing with the politics in a bigger company, that was new. Lots of new technical things to learn.
What were some of your key takeaways during that period? Was it that?
This is like back of my mind. This is
Fair
like
enough, 16
dusty
years ago.
boxes. Yeah, like just looking back, there's things like even today metrics are important, right? And I spend a lot of time with business strategy and all that, and it's just what are like the top 5 metrics you should be looking at every day, every week, and that's what they were doing, right? Is that shipping accuracy is important, driving that.
And were you, like, how big was this company, the home company?
They had probably 300, 400 employees.
And who were you working for there? Was it someone in IT? Was it the senior management? Was it more like product designers?
We worked with their general manager. It was kind of his baby project, yeah.
Got it. And how long did that baby project go for?
I was there like a year and a half, so that whole time, and it started before that and continued after I left. I don't think they changed it much because I got it to a point where it was stable.
Got it.
I
And
moved
you're
on.
living in Chilliwack still at this point, and
Yeah, so
commuting
commuting,
to
yeah,
Richmond?
yeah.
Back and forth
Zero
every day?
Avenue, Massey Tunnel, yeah.
Okay. You could do it in your sleep probably still today.
It's changed that road actually, so that would be dangerous to do in my sleep.
Fair
yeah.
enough. Fair enough. Well then, jumping ahead, still some more technology company names. Shorebridge Technology Group, which then became Uniserve Professional Services. This was at the era of 2004 through to 2007. You were a system architect. What is that?
It's a fancy name for somebody who gets involved in a lot of different things.
Okay.
Kind of a catch-all title is really what it was.
Right. And what was Shorebridge Technology doing?
They were a managed service provider, much like my company today. So they're helping businesses mostly in the Vancouver area. So just network support, desktop, internet service provider. They did some hosting as well. They had a small data center.
And was this primarily Windows or Linux or a mix?
Probably their client base was probably 80% Windows.
Okay.
And then I focus on the Linux side. Linux and advanced networking, Cisco and all that.
Got it.
So Shorebridge was actually, there was another name, those Professional Systems Designs, PSD.
Okay.
That's who I worked for, really, that 3-year period. And then they did a merger acquisition with some other groups and rebranded it Shorebridge Technology Group. And then that all kind of went south, so then they sold to Uniserve.
Got it. And Uniserve, that was a Valley-based company, was it not?
Yep, they've been around for 25 years, I guess, 30
Yeah.
years now. They're still around, yeah.
And they started and probably still are as an ISP to a degree?
Yep, still ISP, and now they're still doing the managed services as well.
Okay. And so during that time, how did your role change?
Towards the end, well, they did I had a lot of personal change. I went back to university to finish my degree, started dating a girl, spent time in Holland to get to know her and her family.
Okay.
Bought a house, got engaged, did renovations, and started my business. So that year was a lot of stuff going on.
Wow.
So I kind of took a step back from that so I could finish my degree because I had all my electives left.
And what degree was it?
Bachelor of Computer Information Systems from UFV.
UFE, okay. And that was done in Abbotsford?
Yep.
Primarily? So you went from a very practical, real-world situation. You're probably, what, 25, 26 at that point?
Yeah, 24, 25, yeah.
You're next to these 18-year-old kids in many ways, or was it a real mix of students?
By that point, I was in third year, fourth year.
Got it.
That's a mix. And even like that last semester, I had 5 courses, all from different programs. A CRIM, a communication, an adult ed, a marketing, and maybe one CIS in there, but it was a mixed bag.
Yeah, and at that point, you probably had visions of starting your own thing. Was that starting to percolate?
A little bit. So I'm not really working. I'm working like 2 hours a week just for knowledge transfer with my colleagues there and keep that door open a little bit. But I got to thinking, what happens in January once I'm married and I'm back from Holland, because we got married in Holland. Coming back, what do I do, right? Do I go there full time or find another job or start on my own?
Got it. And so that really is part of this journey from employee to founder. And it sounds like, in many ways, as an employee, you didn't have a lot of management. You were pretty much your own island working on specific things. And how did that influence the way that you wanted to start a company? Meaning, did you feel like you were missing structure, or you liked just giving the notion of having employees that just could have free reign?
Because a lot of going my own was having the culture I wanted of not micromanagement, just having fun and not the toxic issues that were at some of the previous companies and the bureaucracy and kind of the downside of high growth and startup and mergers and acquisitions that aren't managed properly and fall apart. So avoiding that. So there's that. But yeah, it's something I'm still thinking about today. It's like I just even had a coaching call this afternoon with my coach and just talking about some of that is the level of management and direction and where my time should go.
Right.
So that's still something I'm working through today. It's kind of going on my own. And the first couple of years was really just helping clients. Like I got busy within a month, full time, really, with clients and people I knew and doing.
So what
tech
did that
work.
look like? Was it a desk at home? Was it a small office?
Nope. So my father's company, he had an office in Chilliwack, well, he still does, and he had space there, so I worked there. Even from the last probably year from working at the previous employer, I just worked from there rather than driving to North Van. So I just kept working from there and supporting my clients from there.
And you were mentioning that your wife was involved early on
Yep.
doing some administration, accounting, and
Yep.
and that side of
The
things.
paperwork and bank reconciliations and deposits, all of that. So without her, I wouldn't have started really.
How did you find that working with your wife? Was it awesome? Was it some conflict? Was it
It was fine. I didn't really have a problem.
okay?
But yeah, once we had 2 children, 3
Yeah.
children, then you can't do that in their nap times anymore because they don't line up, and
Right.
you can't do it with a kid on your lap behind the computer. So then she was falling behind. I'm like, okay, it's time, right? We've got to get somebody else in here.
And how many kids do you have now?
6.
6.
Yeah.
So you're taking the family legacy and you're pushing for the 8. And,
Not
or
pushing,
6 is
not pushing.
good.
Yeah,
For
it's
now.
a good round number. Yeah, half dozen.
Awesome. So one of your first businesses was Caylix Internet.
Yep.
Tell me about that business.
Started really as a hobby and just doing a good thing for the community. So we had people from my old church who were like, hey, we want to have a safe internet for our families in our church. So filtering out things like porn and gambling and violence, because there's a ton of stuff online that's not really appropriate for families and can ruin relationships and such. So they got some money and we started that to buy some servers and get some software going and to start the marketing.
So
It
were
was
you
meant to be
essentially
a Saturday kind of afternoon thing, right? You spend 4 hours on it and
Right.
it's your hobby thing.
So was it essentially an internet service provider?
Yes, yeah. So we're reselling TELUS connections. Shaw didn't let us do that. A local wireless provider, and then some providers in Alberta and Ontario were reselling their connections, and then doing the filtering on the ISP side. The big benefit is that it's impossible to bypass unless you go on somebody else's connection. But anything in your home using that connection is locked down.
And was that, during that period, would that be like ADSL or something like that? Or
ADSL, we did a lot of dial-up actually.
Okay.
Back then. That's mostly gone now. There's still people today on dial-up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can imagine.
Doesn't want to die, but you dial-up and wireless and some cable, yeah.
And so that filtering, was that software that you were writing, or were you using some available?
We used something from a company in the Netherlands. So we resold that and then added things like our email system, local connections. So it's a whole bundle of their filter and local services.
And you mentioned this is a Saturday project. What did the company form look like? Was it you and a partner? Was it bigger than that?
Yep, I had a co-founder on that, and then we had one technician who helped us part-time in the beginning. And then later on, I took it over completely and just had my Kerkhoff tech team supporting it.
And so this, what came first, Caylix or Kerkhoff? Or kind of
Caylix
the
actually
same?
came first, because that was like 2003, 2004 we started that.
Got it. And then the next thing I have, so that was a shot of the homepage at the
Yep.
time, and so that's looking fairly modern, a little more modern than the UI for the barcoding system.
Yep.
And then KTI Bonded Internet / Multapplied Networks. What is that business?
So that was a product that we started developing about 9-10 years ago, and to combine multiple internet connections so you get the full speed. So if you can't get fast fiber or cable, then we would take multiple DSL lines, 2, 3, 4, really any number, and combine them so you get the full upload and download. So if you're doing online backup, sending big images, big files, they're very handy to increase your speed that way.
And what did that, like, was that a hardware solution? You guys were like inventing
So
hardware?
it's hardware and software. It's really, we wrote the software and runs on a Linux appliance.
Got it.
So you need a piece of hardware on site, and it connects with a kind of proprietary VPN tunnel to a system in the cloud.
And who were your clients?
We had some direct, but really we built it to sell to partners like other ISPs, data centers, and around the world to sell to their clients. So it's a whole channel model.
And KTI Bonded Internet / Multapplied Network. So that was a rebrand to Multapplied
So
Networks?
when we started, then it was done as a joint venture with another company. And so they branded it as their product name, and I sold it as KTI Bonded Internet. And then we joined forces after a couple of years. So we're like, okay, let's move the intellectual property, the code, the salespeople, the developers writing the code into their own company. And that was called Multapplied. So we did a raise for that and launched that in 2012.
So you're jumping into partnerships and legal structures, and how did you navigate all of that?
Poorly.
Poorly? Was it mostly just a handshake, and did any of it end poorly, or?
Yes, yep.
Okay,
I
all the above?
learned that handshakes are not sufficient and you need to have an agreement in place and think those things through, yeah. Having a shareholder agreement and what's our plan to get out of this, and it's not all roses and...
Yeah, and you glossed over it, but you said you raised money. Like, how did
Yep.
you go about doing that? Did you have a...
Then later on, once we had been into it for 3 years, then we raised the money and cleaned up the agreements and moved forward, yeah.
And did you work with a consultant to do that, or did you just do it friends and family, or what was that?
My co-founder did the raising, so he did that, and then we had some lawyers to help with the paperwork, and
Okay.
yeah. There's lots of details there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the lesson I learned to share with everyone is like, take care of your paperwork, even if it's a small idea. Make sure you have the agreement in there around intellectual property right, copyright.
And this was a diagram that you had sent over that honestly looked cool to me, but I had no idea what it meant.
Okay. Yeah, just a bit of the architecture around it. There's a management server, just a web interface for managing all these connections.
Got it.
So you say this is the client name. They've got this hardware on site, and they've got an LTE wireless connection, an ADSL or two. These are the speeds. And then they would go to those devices and make sure they're configured properly to talk to each other.
And so at one point you bowed out of this company, but it's still going
They're
today,
still going,
isn't it?
yeah. I've exited out of that, so I'm no longer a part of that.
And are they based in Chilliwack still?
They do have an office in Chilliwack. It's on Airport Road. They've actually got,
Okay.
I think 5 or 6 developers writing code there. No sign or nothing. They're really totally under the radar.
You're giving them more play here than they've probably want.
Yeah.
So in 2007, while all of this is happening, you also founded, that's their current website, I found that.
Yes,
So,
yep.
yeah. Kerkhoff Technologies Inc.
Yes, I think Multapplied, I think they just rebranded. There was a whole merger thing going on as well that was in a press release recently.
Okay,
But yeah, they have Chilliwack office, some people in North Van, and then some in Toronto.
cool.
They keep growing, so.
So while all of this is happening, you've had Kerkhoff Technology Inc. kind of as the
Yep.
overall umbrella that's moving forward, that still exists today. This is your current website. So what does Kerkhoff Technology Inc. do today? Just that side of it. I guess it's the Windows
So as far as
side.
this website, this is working with businesses who want to outsource their support, whether it's helping users with wireless, email, there's their day-to-day IT needs. And we're doing that with clients mostly in the Fraser Valley. We do have some outside of that, but mostly Chilliwack and Abbotsford. And so we have a monthly agreement and we support them. And that's
Got it.
mostly Windows, Microsoft-centric technology.
Got it. And these are small to medium-sized businesses?
Yep.
Yeah. Any particular niche that you're in, or is it across all sorts of different?
A lot of them the majority actually do have in-house IT people that are handling coordination, overall management, local help desk. So we'll just come in on the server side and networking. Some of them have up to 300 users. So we don't talk to the users at all, and we're behind the scenes with phone systems, firewalls, and backups and servers.
And how many people today are dedicated to that line of business?
We've got 5 people in that support team now, yeah.
Wow. And sales on that side, does it just sort of organically happen, or do you have dedicated sales for that?
No dedicated sales. I've just really hired my first salesperson just a few weeks ago,
Okay.
or a month ago now, I guess.
So that's all grown through word of mouth and just
Word of
doing a
mouth,
good job?
referrals, some inbound, but really we don't need a whole lot to keep busy. Like, there's so much potential with these existing clients that I know we
Right.
could double what we do just by maintaining those relationships and keeping in front of people.
And then the other hat you wear is the CEO, founder of Crafty Penguins. First of all, what's with the name? I know Linux has a penguin thing, but maybe they don't.
It's really, that's what it is. It's, I was doing it under the Kerkhoff Technologies brand, but it was kind of an orphaned subpage. It was hard to get inbound, and it's a very different market with the skill set, the tools, where the clients are. Like the Linux consulting clients we've had around the world. I got clients in Australia, the Netherlands, had some in the UK, the States, and very different value proposition, needs, messaging, and such. So we came up with the Crafty Penguins brand about 3 years ago, and that's been really successful because it speaks to our client. They understand the mascot for the Linux operating system is the friendly tux penguin.
Right.
So we came up with that name, and Crafty kind of references unique solutions that we come up with, custom solutions, and we're creative and willing to jump into any problem and find a solution.
Describe maybe not a typical project, but a project Crafty Penguins would get involved in.
So we're onboarding a client right now. They are retail. They're selling online. They've got a couple developers in-house. They got their own warehouse, all of that. And they've got like 20 Linux servers in the cloud in the States, and they realize they need a partner to help with monitoring it, all the operational tasks, so they can focus on writing the code. Because typically programmers don't do very well thinking about security, backups, monitoring. It's kind of break-fix. So we come in with a proactive model and take care of it so their website is up. We deal with issues, outages, making sure they're taken care of there from the business side. So
I would imagine that documentation and just keeping track of all of this is a huge undertaking.
Yep.
What sort of lessons have you learned there? Like, you probably don't have a whole bunch of Post-it notes with all the passwords and things like that.
Nope. I visited clients, which that's their strategy. Behind the desk, they got a whole rainbow of sticky notes and passwords. But yeah, we take documentation seriously. So we have our company wiki, where we document everything for every client. And I got a whole templates and structure for that. And then everything we do also goes into our timesheets and ticket system. So we can see exactly what was done. I want to be transparent with clients, as well as other technicians need to be able to support that client. I don't want to be dependent on the one technician who has it all in their head.
Right.
And they're not available, and we're kind of screwed. So documentation is very important.
And where does that's a little bit different, obviously, than a Fraser Valley-based support. Like, how are you growing this brand globally? Is it just people doing searches and finding you, or?
Yep, really been doing a big effort on the SEO and AdWords the last year.
What are some lessons you've learned there? Just hacking SEO and figuring all of that out.
I think I'm actually using a contractor for that. I think that's important. Like I can dabble in it, but it really needs focused attention. So I've using a contractor, and that seems to be working. Yeah, you got to figure out your keywords. You got to test. You got to experiment. Just keep looking at the numbers. But it's still a work in progress. I want to get that sort of 5 to 10 leads, really 10 to 15 leads every month on that website, and we're not there yet.
And so the leads coming in, they're raising their hand and saying, we want some sort of custom project. Is your role to define what that is, or do you have someone who's doing that and then quoting it?
I'm involved with a lot of it, yes, yeah. But yeah, they come in and say, hey, we have, let's say, FreePBX is like a Linux distribution for doing phone systems. And we've got some expertise in that, so they're coming to us and like, hey, we need help. We're beyond our abilities, and we just want to bring in somebody to have on standby. So go talk to them, do a proposal, and close that.
So it sounds like a lot of this is kind of good, steady. You can predict what you're going to make on a month, and more so, I guess, on the managed services.
Definitely,
is the Linux side more project-based?
Definitely a lot more projects. The ratio is very different. On the Windows side, it's a lot more recurring, less projects. It's probably like 30-60. And on the Linux side, it's probably like 30%, probably even 20% recurring, and the rest is projects. So that's been a challenge, and we're trying to balance that so it's more recurring and predictable. That's just kind of sick of the whole feast or famine project cycle, where you're crazy busy and you can't keep up, and then your service is below par and you're not getting it done.
And so if those two hats weren't enough, you've added a third, which is KW Kanban.
CW Kanban, yeah.
I'm sorry. Which is ConnectWise.
ConnectWise.
Describe what that product is.
So ConnectWise is software that IT service provider use. It's in the category of PSA, which means Professional Services Automation. So it's really helping with the workflow that we run in our business. It's like a CRM or ERP specific to our business, dealing with agreements, billing, ticketing, projects, quotes, opportunities, all of that.
And so this originally started as a project to fulfill your needs, I understand?
Yes. Because we're struggling with, like, we got all these tickets, and how do we prioritize what should we be doing today, what should we be doing tomorrow?
Right.
So I'm
So
like,
this is your first jump into software as a service or SaaS.
yeah, the Multapplied bonded internet stuff was also
Right.
SaaS, but that was a whole other model and market, and that was channel. And I saw this need, I'm like, hey, we can benefit from it, and I see a big need in this space for it. So we, right away, we got to thinking about, let's productize it.
And how long ago was that?
About 4 years.
4 years? And so
5
you've
years, yeah.
commercialized it, you're using it yourself.
Yep.
And how's that going?
Going really well, yeah. We've doubled that in the last year. We're signing up clients, good dialing in the metrics, all the SaaS metrics, and yeah, just reducing churn and signing up more clients. Our demos go really well. We close over half of the demos we give. Getting referrals. Our clients are mentioning us on Facebook and social media.
And describe the business model itself. Is it kind of per user, seat per month? Is it for a company? How did you figure that out?
For the people that we're displaying the work for. So some of them might have like 100 people using ConnectWise, but they're only worried about one team, like a project team. That's maybe 10 people, so they just pay for those 10 people.
And you're able to connect with ConnectWise because they have an API of some sort. And are they aware of what you're doing?
Not really. Some of our clients have talked to them and like, hey, you should buy CW Kanban, because they have their own feature like this called the Agile board, and it sucks. It's really not Agile and not Kanban. So nobody uses it. They just come to us.
So
and
describe Kanban, because that's a terminology for project management, or where's the origin of that?
If you back up the slide to the sticky notes one.
Yeah.
This comes from actually out of Japan from like 60 years ago. So
Okay.
it predates a lot of us here.
Yeah.
But it really means, it's Japanese for visual and card. And so you could see this on a shop floor, or even if you've got like a back room with an inventory with bins, you could put notes on there, or you could, let's say you've got a box with cables in it, and you know when I'm down to 5, we should order more. So you just put a pink card by the 5th last one that says, when you see this card, because you've used all the ones in front, let's reorder. So just simple tools like that where you don't need complex software, just visualizing with sticky notes, cards,
Right.
felt pens.
The sticky note invention must have blown their minds.
Yeah, it was really good. So that's been around for a while, and those techniques got picked up by the software development industry like 20 years ago with things like Scrum and Kanban. And so we'd been using that in the software development side of the business for years. I was like, how do we use this in operations?
So this really is what your current strategy looks like. You've got these 3 divisions almost, all working with the intertwined teams. Describe your future vision and how this plays into it.
It really is having multiple divisions where they're all have all the components of a healthy company, looking at sales, marketing, people, process, all of that management. And so we can provide, or hit different market segments, but different things, whether it is the consulting, reporting, custom application development, because it does all embrace all these things. So being able to provide all these services to our clients. Somehow they all touch technology, but really raising the bar that way. So.
And do you see one growing, like the SaaS is fairly new for you, but do you see that that's potentially the future?
Yes, like the other ones can grow, like they could grow 20, 30% a year, but the SaaS could be doubling, tripling, quadrupling every year.
Right.
And it's very narrow defined market and props and our value propositions and roles and such.
And right now you're tied to that particular product, ConnectWise. Do you see Kanban being able to plug into other platforms like that?
Yes, so we're planning to support Autotask later this summer, which will double our total addressable market.
Got it.
But I'd like to support the top 5 in that category, which would make us kind of a dominant player for that. And we're ubiquitous.
Right,
so that'll be huge.
And less vulnerable, I guess, to
Yes.
them switching their API or turning it off somehow.
Well, and ConnectWise is doing some shady things with agreements where they want to take 20% of our revenue, and
Got it. And do you have a formal agreement with them currently, or do you just...
it's really developer API access. I don't pay anything for it.
Got it.
They want me to pay them like 10 grand a year for like a basic certification on it, but I think that's kind of highway theft. So Like none of our clients ask, are you certified with ConnectWise? They don't care.
Right, it just works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I want to transition to this topic because as I was talking with Wim and have known him for a while, there's no one who works on themselves more than you that I know. And so much of that is your ability to read, to look out for help, to connect with groups, you've got a coach and so forth. Where does that come from?
Yeah. Just the drive to be better. And,
yeah. Is that...
I don't like doing the same thing over and over, so it's always how do I automate, improve that, delegate that. I just love solving new problems all the time.
Because you've been involved with something called Ace Tech.
Yes, yeah.
And what is that?
So it's a nonprofit. They're in Vancouver. They've been around for over 25 years. I only heard about it like 5 years ago. And it's really, their tagline is by tech CEOs for tech CEOs. It's a lot of support and resources, education for people like me. So I'm in a roundtable with 7 other tech CEOs, and where we're challenging each other, accountability, helping us with growth, sharing problems, struggles, helping each other that way.
And what does that look like? Is it virtual, or do you get together?
We get together once a month in Vancouver. So we have some food and drinks and go through the agenda, check-ins. Typically there's one company presenting. And yeah, we spend 3 to 4 hours together. And there's a facilitator as well to keep that rolling along.
And how big is Ace Tech itself? So you've got a group of 7. Obviously there's other groups as well.
I think there's like 20 groups or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is that a fixed term? Do you do it for 3 years, or you're in and you just keep going?
They like a 1-year commitment. Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you been involved?
3.5 years now.
Okay. And so you're getting a lot out of it?
Yep. And I've been in other groups before that. I've been in a peer group now for probably 8-9 years.
And one of the things that really started all of this was you went to a Colin Sprake Business Mastery seminar. What is that, and why did it catch your interest?
It's just kind of opened my mind to what's possible when you work on yourself and your mindset and your psyche and getting rid of limiting beliefs and the power of the subconscious mind. Like we think, at least as a technician, I really thought logically in my mind and realizing, yeah, there's a lot of limiting beliefs there, so working through that.
So I'm imagining...
Thinking bigger with your vision and...
So I'm imagining kind of Tony Robbins and trust falls and all of those types of things. And wow.
So it started with like a 3-day. They did like a 2-hour evening event where they kind of get you hooked as a free thing, and then for a low cost they get you into a 3-day seminar for like $100, $200. They just want to fill the room. So I did it with 50 other people, and then they signed you for the whole package, which was like $15,000. So I signed up for everything he was doing.
You were all in.
Yeah.
And that also included personal coaching and so forth, or a piece of it?
Trying to think if that was above the 60. It might have been above even. I can't remember. So remember I upgraded. First did the whole package and then added the one-on-one CEO coaching with him.
And that really, it resonated with you, and you felt, and that was sort of the turning point to just dive into this self-improvement, wasn't it?
Yep. So this is the evolution of the business. It started as, if you read the book called The E-Myth from Michael Gerber, I believe. Starts as a technician. You got the technician, the entrepreneur, and the manager. And I was really a technician, just working on tech stuff that I love doing and the variety. And I realized I need to develop the other aspects as well. So getting sales and marketing going, defining roles for employees, accountability, all of that. Those are all around that time, a lot of transformation.
And to get a pre-interview with you, I was funneled to your executive administrator and given my 45-minute slot on a particular time, and it was just, it's pretty amazing. How long have you had an executive, it's not an executive assistant, it's an executive...
That's her title, executive assistant, yeah.
Okay, and what's her role?
Keeping me organized and efficient and... Yeah.
And that's fairly new, that's within the last year?
Yeah, she started last September. And probably should have hired her like 2-3 years ago, considering the results I'm getting. One of the, we talked about the Traction EOS book.
Right.
And one of the authors, I watch his videos, and he's like, if anybody has 10 employees or $1 million of revenue and they don't have an assistant, they should be sued for like malpractice. So I highly recommend it, right? Is as soon as you can, get that person. Because we shouldn't, as CEOs, we shouldn't be doing the low-paid jobs. Not that she's low-paid, but... We shouldn't be doing, it's all about leverage. And we go doing the high things that are moving us the next, looking out 3-5 years.
You touched on something, EOS. What is that?
So it's EOS is the entrepreneur operating system. So just like your computer or your phone, everything needs an operating system. So does a business. And there's several to pick from. Like that's one. There's like Rockefeller Habits, Scaling App. Acetech has something called the one-page plan or the metronome system from Shannon. And there's other ones out there. So it's kind of, they're all good. Just pick one and run with it. But following one of those is really important. Looking at your vision, mission, core values, the roles, your metrics, where you're going. So everyone's literally working from the same page.
Yeah, you had mentioned that at a meeting I was at, and I got turned on to that. And we've now got our mission, vision, traction document with our
VTO,
our quarterly rocks and goals, and it's been really good. Yeah. And you've been using that particular one yourself?
We use that. We recently took that up a notch with the OKRs.
Okay.
Which is Objective Key Result, which comes out of Google actually. And just getting those rocks, those quarterly initiatives, even more clear and really down to metrics that you can drive. Because it's not just doing a bunch of stuff or moving something forward, but like what do we want to achieve and being set out to win and get her done.
And you currently don't have any partners, right?
Nope, I'm 100% owner, yeah.
But you did hire a senior vice president at some point, and that's really helped you, from what I understand. And I believe he's probably in the audience.
Yes. Steve is here, yeah.
Tell me about that, because it's all on you as the CEO.
The good parts or the bad parts? No.
Well, just that notion of kind of everything being on you, and how do you bring on a confidant or someone you can download some of your duties to and trust?
So some of this comes back to the traction model of, they say at the top of the organization, well, you got the owner, but then you got your visionary and your integrator. It's rare that you have somebody that can do both really well. They might be like 60, 70% on it, just being clear on it. And I'm really a visionary, which is high-level relationships, looking forward, big picture kind of stuff. And an integrator is more about dealing with the details, getting people talking together, communication, processes. And so that's really to grow my company, I've got to be out there meeting clients and not worrying about hiring people and all these internal mechanics. Very important things. So my mandate for my right-hand man, for Steve, is people and service, taking care of that. So I can be focused out there getting the new big fish and getting them on board. And being out there, having the downtime where I'm not in email, not in the office, getting bogged down in the weeds, but really being above the forest and flying around that way. So.
And then with your Kerkhoff Windows offering, your Crafty Penguins Linux offering, and CW Kanban, do each of those have a particular manager or someone who owns that?
Yes and no. I have that now for CW Kanban the last 5-6 months, and that's going really well. I got a VP Kanban, Matt, and he's just taking on so many things. They're managing the developers, onboarding clients, doing demos, putting a lot of processes and such in place. That's been really good. So I'd like to replicate that in the other units as well. So if you look at, I read the book from Jack Welch, the CEO of General Electric for 20 years.
Right.
And he's like, that was key, is really getting that whole level of CEOs and general managers in place for each factory and warehouse and every unit he had. So it is a tricky business model with really multiple companies. It's not just division of multiple companies. That's the way I look at it, is if you look online for best practice and ideas, it's not about the divisions, but treating them like their own individual companies. Yes, we share resources, like the sales and marketing and Steve and myself and executive assistant, but each one needs to have all those parts of a healthy company.
So you've been founder CEO of Kerkhoff Technology for about 12 years.
Yep.
And it's just continuing to grow. You're at 19-ish, 20 employees. There must have been some bumps along the way, because this all sounds pretty smooth and seamless.
Oh, it's ugly and messy.
Well, tell us about some of the ugly and messy.
When you grow too quick, that's a big issue. And you're just too many people and losing money. You're investing into growth and borrowing money to do that, and it's not paying off. Well, one more month, and eventually you have to right size. You got to protect the entity and keep her alive.
Okay.
So that's been that. Sometimes you got to cut back, right? So those were hard times. We're past that. And hiring the wrong people, whether it's a salesperson or a technician or a manager, and you think they're the right person, and you realize, oh no, they can't elevate anymore, and they're getting overwhelmed and burnt out, and So you got to deal with that, right?
You mentioned recently hiring a salesperson.
Yep.
A, where did you find that person? And B, what's their job look like?
Found them through church, yeah.
Okay.
Actually, both Steve and Jonathan, who's here as well, is through church. Got introduced that way and got to know them that way. So, and then, but still went through a hiring process. I've learned that as well, as not just hiring friends or people you know, or the first person who applies for a job posting, but really go through a very detailed process looking for red flags and core values. Can they do the job? That was the first question. What was the second one?
Well, I guess hiring a
how do you-
salesperson to sell a very abstract, technical, do they have a background in that, or do you just look for someone with a personality type or that you could train?
That's what my goal was on this role, is somebody who can start at the bottom, because we do a lot of things that's complex, the multiple units. Even if it wasn't that, but just the Windows IT, that's still a lot in there to deal with.
Right.
So I knew I couldn't just helicopter somebody in and be up and running. That would just fall apart. And I didn't want to deal with egos or people like, well, I've been doing it this way for 10 years and let's just change your business whim to do it this way.
And you don't have to get into total details, but you can structure sales in many different ways. Commission, base plus commission, all base. Is there, for your type of business, have you found a particular model, or are you still experimenting?
I've seen a lot of models, and a lot of what I follow is from US companies, and they really push commissions quite heavily, like almost 100% or 80% commission. I think that's where we're at, and just paying based on the value they provide, and reasonably that way. So I'm not getting tied up with comp plans, and because that can set a lot of false expectations and all that, right? People get disappointed. So I'm keeping it really simple, and it's just salary.
And is your salesperson primarily selling the Windows services side or everything?
Helping with everything. Again, starting at the bottom, just helping me with like paperwork, getting quotes out, scheduling things, keeping the CRM up to date. So starting with that. So it's not full on selling and closing deals, because I'm still the principal salesperson.
Got it.
So delegating what I can, let them learn and get ready to take on more and more.
You touched on CRM. Is that something you guys have written specifically, or are you using a product like Salesforce? Or?
We're just using the one that's built into ConnectWise.
Okay.
It's not amazing, but it's there and it's integrated. All our clients in there, we've been using it. So we're running with that right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Team building with off-site meetings. Tell me about that.
So that's, I don't know, it's not explicitly spelled out in the traction process, but the idea is you do have yearly and quarterly rhythms. So we do a leadership team offsite on those intervals. So quarterly we do get offsite for 1 day and review the last quarter, our numbers, and what are we going to do the next quarter. And then once a year we get offsite for 2 days and do the same thing at a higher level, go through, kind of pound through the, hammer out the whole VTO, update that, because a lot changes in a year, a lot of issues, and set new goals for the next year. And then we take about a good half day to, with the team as well, to take them through it. So they're clear on where are we going, what do we need from them. And
If you could look into your crystal ball, or in your case, your very detailed spreadsheet, and look at 5 years out, where do you see your company and where you're at?
I have spent some time on that, and it's really having our own building. Right now we're leasing, having our own building that we own. We could be at 40, 50 people. When we moved in our office a year ago, we thought, oh, it'll be good for 5 years, but it's already filling up, right? So, the multiple
based?
units.
You hanging around here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm planning to be here for a long time. I'm not planning to get out of it anytime soon, the business, right? I can be there in there another 20, 30 years. I love what I'm doing. But still structuring it that it can not only survive, but thrive if I'm gone for 2 months, 3 months. So putting those roles in place, that's key for the next 5 years.
I'm going to turn it over to the audience for questions, but I just touched on it. Chilliwack. What are the pros and cons of having a tech company in Chilliwack for you?
I don't know. I've never really had a tech company anywhere else, but
Yeah.
just, I guess the geography is different, right? Like you can't just go out and meet people and like you could in Vancouver
Right.
or in the other big cities. So yeah, there is more travel. That's just got to do that.
And have most of your hires been local, or are you bringing folks in?
I've never really brought anybody in from outside that. They've all been, we're targeting people in the Fraser Valley, yeah. You know, I'd like to keep them, that they can, right now, almost everyone but one person is in the office coming in most days. But I think over the next 3 years, we have to embrace remote and having a hybrid workforce.
Right.
Not necessarily people in Vancouver, but just across the country or other countries that can provide value and be part of the culture.
Well, let's hear it for Wim. Fantastic.